Assalamu alaikum students, welcome to English class. Today we are going to talk about Helen Keller, a very influential figure in the history. So by the end of this lesson, you'll be able to know about Helen Keller, her life and achievements. And you'll be able to know about the role models depicting professionalism. So this is the story of my life written by Helen Keller, the book written by her. So here is an introduction of Helen Keller. Helen Keller is known the world over as symbol of courage in the face of overwhelming odds. Why overwhelming odds? Why? Because at the age of 19 months, she was left blind and deaf. But she didn't make her depravity her weakness. She struggled, she worked hard, and she proved to the world that your disability cannot be a hindrance in your achievement or in your success. Yet she was so much more, a woman of luminous intelligence, high ambition, and great accomplishment. She was driven by her deep compassion for others to devote her life to helping them overcome significant obstacles to living healthy and productive lives. So her life is a beacon of light for others who are deprived in any ways, okay, in any way, physically, mentally, economically, in any way. Her life is a beacon of light, a ray of light and hope. So here are 10 remarkable achievements of Helen Keller. The first one is Helen Keller was the first deaf-blind person to earn a bachelor's degree. She published her famous autobiography, The Story of My Life, in 1903. She published 12 books in her writing career, including Light in My Darkness. This is also another name of her book. She co-founded Helen Keller Foundation or organization in 1915. Keller was a prominent political and social activist. She was a leading member of the American Foundation for the Blind. Keller was a world-renowned speaker. She was deaf and dumb. Still, she learned how to speak, and then she was a renowned speaker. She was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1964, the highest award. Helen Keller is ranked as one of the most influential people of the 20th century, and her statue is there in an American museum. And she remains an inspirational icon for millions across the world. So these are her achievements. When Helen Keller was born, she was born on June 27, 1880 in Tuscumbia, Alabama to Captain Arthur H. Keller and Kate Keller, her father and mother. At time of Helen's birth, the family was far from being wealthy. Captain Arthur H. Keller was earning a living as both a cotton plantation owner and as the editor of a weekly local newspaper. And his missus also, Helen's mother Kate, also worked on the plantation, yet she would also save money by making butter, lard, bacon, and ham. There is another important figure in Anne's life, and that is in Helen's life, and that is Anne Sullivan. Now, who is Anne Sullivan? Anne Sullivan was a gifted teacher best known for her work with Helen Keller, a blind and deaf child. She taught to communicate. She taught her, a blind and deaf child, she taught her how to communicate. At only 20 years of age, Sullivan showed great maturity and ingenuity in teaching Keller and worked hard with her pupil, bringing both women much acclaim. So whatever Helen Keller she achieved in her life, she owes a lot to Anne Sullivan, her teacher, who at the age of 20 was very mature. Okay. Sullivan even helped Keller write her autobiography, The Story of My Life. Okay. And if you watch the movie, if you have time, please watch the movie of Helen Keller. You will see that how difficult it was to teach her, to tell her how the life is, because she was blind and deaf. She couldn't see and she couldn't hear. And definitely, when she was unable to see and hear, she was unable to speak also properly. So, this is only because of her teacher. When the world gave up on Helen Keller, she came forward and told her parents and the world that she could achieve what nobody had ever dreamed of. Okay. Then another important figure in Helen's life is Graham Bell. You are familiar with Graham Bell's name, Alexander Graham Bell, who invented the telephone. He was also very interested in education for the um, hearing impaired, in part because his wife Mabel was also deaf. In 1888, Bell founded the Volta Bureau for the Deaf, which is now called the Alexander Graham Bell Association for the Deaf. And Bell was a good friend of Helen and Anne's and would remain so until his death in 1922. In this picture, he is talking to Helen using the manual alphabet. So you can see in this picture. Okay. Now here, when did Helen graduate? When Helen graduated from Radcliffe College in 1904, she mastered 5 different languages, not only one language, but she had mastered 5 different languages. On Helen's 50th anniversary of graduating from Radcliffe College, she was awarded the Alumni Achievement Award, and they also showed pride in her by dedicating the Helen Keller Garden in her honor. So this is her achievement when she graduated from uh, Radcliffe College in 1904. When she died, Helen Keller died peacefully in her sleep on June 1st, 1968, at the age of 87. And she died naturally by natural causes at Arkenridge, Connecticut, more than 30 years after the death of Anne Sullivan. So after the death of her teacher, Anne Sullivan, she lived for 30 years, and she died after 30 years of her teacher's death, Anne Sullivan. Here is the here are the pictures of Anne Sullivan's books, The Story of My Life by Helen Keller, and you can read this quote. It says, character cannot be developed in ease and quiet. Only through experience of trial and suffering can the soul be strengthened, ambition inspired, and success achieved. Very deep words. See, very beautifully she has explained that character cannot be developed in ease. It is not something that you can develop overnight. It needs a lot of effort, trial, and suffering, that your soul can be strengthened and your ambition can be inspired and you can achieve success. Then another book, The World I Live In and Optimism, and this is a collection of essays by Helen Keller. Then Light in the Darkness, since she was blind. So see, this book depicts light in the darkness, how she was able to see. Okay, so this was all about Helen Keller. Uh, she has shown the world that how a deaf and blind child can become so famous, and how could such a person achieve so much uh, with ambition, with accomplishment, and with intelligence. And definitely it took her a lot of effort also. It was not an easy task to overcome all these obstacles and to live such a productive life. Okay, so these are the achievements of Helen Keller. So quick recap: Helen Keller, when she was 19 months old, she was left blind and deaf by an illness, and then her life became miserable. But then things changed when her teacher Anne Sullivan taught her how to read and write, and she became a famous author. She became a famous speaker, public figure, and she did what nobody had ever expected. When she was born, she was a normal child, but then she was left with an illness, which was devastating for her, because she was left blind and deaf at the age of 19 months. So this is all about Helen Keller. Hopefully you would have understood, and whenever you have time, please watch a movie about Helen Keller. Okay, thank you so much for listening.